Here we go. Here we go. All right, folks. Jermaine Ferrell in the house with the WFXR Sports Fastlane right here on WFXRTV.com. And we have one race in the books. And we have so many more to go. And hey, I need to get our WFXR Sports Racing Insider, the driver of the WFXR car, Sammy Eanes, in the house. And Sammy, how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing fantastic. Yeah, one race of a long season in the books. Lot to break down. And as always, Daytona never disappoints.
Speaking of not being disappointed, how about this? A rookie winning the Daytona 500, Austin Cindric. He's a Sunoco rookie. I mean, when you win Daytona, you pretty much can almost write your ticket to being the rookie of the year. But I got to ask you, what does a win like this, especially the Super Bowl of all the racing in NASCAR, what does a win like this, what does that do for Austin Cindric as far as his career and how he can rock and roll the season?
There is no better way to start a rookie campaign than winning the Daytona 500. Obviously, it is a Super Bowl of sport. Second straight year, we've kind of had a Cinderella story at Daytona. But I thought the one thing that stood out to me about this was different from Michael McDowell. Cindric was up there all race long. I felt like every time I looked up, he had the two in the front of the field, which has to instill confidence in him that not just for that race, but obviously moving forward throughout the season, that he can get up there and compete. He can run with the best of the best, and that there's not going to be as big of a drop-off as some people may thought there would be with Brad Keselowski, a probable future Hall of Famer, moving over to Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing now. It's got to give Cindric a lot of momentum and confidence heading into the year, so I'm curious to see how he parlays that through the rest of these 35 races.
It was crazy. The first rookie ever to win the Daytona 500. Now, there have been other rookies to win, the second race at Daytona, but never the Daytona 500. And also, I got to ask you, what other things stood out to you? I know you had a laundry list, but I want you to go over all the things that stood out to you at Daytona.
First and foremost, you have to start with Bubba Wallace, right? I think he was a sentimental favorite for a lot of people heading into this race. And he drove amazing, especially down the stretch. And second place finish for Bubba at Daytona. He was this close to getting Cindric at the line. And again, kudos to Austin Cindric for holding off his teammate Ryan Blaney trying to make a push, and then holding off Bubba Wallace right there. We talked about it a little bit last year on the fast lane. Bubba had some ups and downs last year, right? We talked about it last week, how, Bubba probably needs to perform a little bit better this year. So having a second place finish at the 500, hopefully also, same with Cindric, will give Bubba some confidence and some abilities to, move forward into 2022 and have a solid second season with 23XI Racing. And then I just mentioned Ryan Blaney a second ago. Everybody's talking about Bubba being the bridesmaid, which rightfully so. Another second place finish. He was right there. Ryan Blaney, same thing. 3 top 5 finishes in the Daytona 500 now, but has not taken home the checkered flag. And I need to check my notes here because I wrote this down. Blaney in his last 5 races at Daytona, 2nd, 6th, 30th. Obviously, that's the anomaly. First place last fall, now 4th in the 500. But then also, Bubba is very much in a similar situation where he has ran really, really well at Daytona and Talladega. He finished 2nd in the fall at Daytona to Ryan Blaney in that race. So I think one storyline that's emerging for me out of this race is Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, 2 good friends, kind of emerging as really good super speedway racers. Obviously, Bubba got the win at Talladega last fall. So as we move forward to Dega in the spring and then circle back around to Daytona and Talladega, it'll be interesting to see how those 2 drivers compete and if they can really establish themselves along with Denny Hamlin as, the odds-on favorite when it comes to super speedway racing.
And then one other thing you talked about, let's look at the manufacturers. We have Ford, we have Chevy and Toyota. Overall, now that we've had, a couple of, we've had some preliminary races and now we've had an official race. How do you feel that these next gen cars, as far as the manufacturer is concerned, how do you feel if you had to break them down, how do you feel each are doing so far?
Well, the big win so far is certainly Ford. And I know it's very early in the preseason. And then, as you said, the first race of the regular season. But let's be honest, Ford struggled last year. Only 7 wins. SHR was really not a factor the majority of the season. in the Ford camp. They come out this year, they win both duels. They not only won the 500, which they won last year, they had 7 of the top 10 spots in the Daytona 500. I think this showed that Ford has worked hard in the offseason. They don't want to be, like they were last year, where in transparency, they were kind of third fiddle to Chevy and Toyota. And if you looked at last year's Daytona 500, yes, a Ford won, but Chevy had 7 of the top 10 spots. They went on to win 19 races last year, obviously led by Kyle Larson. So if you're a Ford fan, or you're a fan of a Penske driver, or SHR, someone of that manufacturer, you have to feel good about the way the Fords ran at Daytona.
And what's interesting too, and I even noticed this even during the race and other races, not only this year, but in previous years, manufacturers will help each other out. Whether it's, let's say if you're on one team, but if you see a Ford near you, if you see the blue oval behind you, you're going to help out your buddy, or you're going to help out your buddy with a bow tie or whatever else. Or what do they call the Toyota one? I don't know. It's an oval, but it's not a bow tie or the blue oval. So I guess we'll figure out another time. But yeah, they seem like the manufacturers will help each other out. If you're on a different team, but you drive the same manufacturer, you help each other out.
Yeah, and especially that really comes into play at a place like Daytona or Talladega, where you'll often see manufacturers kind of team up and help push each other to the front. I know obviously Blaney and Cindric are teammates, but I think there's some synergies there with Fords helping each other out. Of course, that all goes away that last lap of any race, because everyone's out for themselves and wants to win. But you're correct. You see manufacturers working together. So, in this situation, if Ford is coming to play a little more this year, and you're not only Penske or SHR, but also Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, which is now a mouthful, you have to feel good about that. And you'll look at how those other teams from the same manufacturer are performing throughout the year and see if that can be some sort of a guidepost for you.
And here's what's interesting too. And we didn't even mention this part of it, and it's part of it. Cindric is in the playoffs, because you win a race. What's the rules? You win a race, you're in the playoffs.
That's right. Unless we end up with a crazy situation where there's more than 16 winners, which I don't think, if we didn't hit that last year, we're probably not going to hit that this year. Although I guess you never say never. But yeah, Cindric in the playoffs as a rookie. Again, you have to put yourself in his shoes. 23-year-old rookie taking over for Brad Keselowski. And there's a lot of pressure in and of itself there. And to come in to win a race that Brad K could never win in that car, lock yourself in the playoffs in your rookie campaign again, unless something really wonky happens. What an awesome way to start your rookie campaign in the deuce for Austin Cindric.
And Cindric is tied with Keselowski in the standings.
Yeah.
How about that?
I would love to know how Brad felt watching his old car, beat him to the line there, because Brad drove a great race. Now, granted, maybe some people say a little bit of a controversial race, right? Like he raced really aggressively and flipped Harrison Burton in one of the, thank goodness Harrison Burton's okay, but one of the more spectacular wrecks you'll ever see, especially the end car from Denny Hamlin, man. That thing looked like something out of Fast and Furious. And then Stenhouse was very candid with his comments to the way that Brad Keselowski drove that race. But you know what? Brad has never won the 500. He's now the owner of RFK Racing, part owner of RFK Racing. He wanted to go out and, set the tone for the season. But I would be curious to see what Brad really thinks about seeing his former car beating him to the line at the biggest race of the year.
Well, not to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. But technically, is it his car? Because again, it's the next gen car. So is it technical? I know I'm being technical, and smack me around when you see me. But is it? It's the next gen car, so it is his, but it really isn't, because this next gen thing has really opened up doors for so many people. It's a whole different animal.
It really is. And again, we talked about this last week as well. I think that's a key storyline. And as we get to the intermediate tracks, as we get to Fontana, to just see how these other teams run who aren't always at the front of the field. Can RFK Racing put together a solid season? Can Brad Keselowski win a couple of races for them? Can Trackhouse, can one of these other kind of mid-tier teams, use the next-gen car and the hopeful advantages that car has for everyone, kind of leveling the playing field to see better results in 2022?
That's good stuff there. So let's put Daytona in the rearview mirror because that's where you got to put it now. I mean, that race is gone. You move on to the next one. And the next one, as they're coming back, after taking the last year off, they're going back to Auto Club Speedway, getting back to that 2-mile track located outside LA in Fontana with the Wise Power 400. That'll be a race taking place on Fox. That'll be this coming Sunday at 3:30. Now, the groundbreaking of the California Speedway, as the Auto Club Speedway was originally known, take place on November 1995. That's when you were probably in elementary school, probably, or something.
Oh no, I was in high school.
Okay,
Fieldale Collinsville, which is no longer a high school now, but
right.
yeah, I was in high
Fieldale
school.
Collinsville. Now now it's a middle school.
It is, yep.
So there you go. So your high school's no longer. Everybody, hey, the pride of the. What were their nickname? I'm trying to remember.
Cavaliers, which pains me as a Hokie.
Yes.
And we were my high school was the Cavaliers.
That's what I'm saying. So you do have a little Cavalier blood in you.
Oh, I don't like to admit it.
Don't say it. Yeah. The track name changed to Auto Club Speedway in February 2008. Now, the first race at Auto Club Speedway was an ARCA Menard Series West run by Ken Trader. The first NASCAR Cup Series race took place in June of 1997, won by NASCAR Hall of Famer Jeff Gordon driving the Hendricks car. The September 2004 event was the first night race at the Auto Club Speedway, and that was also the first year of both NASCAR Cup Series and Xfinity. They took races there. There have been 31 Cup races there. The track's hosted one race a season from 1997 to 2003, and then 2 races per season from 2004 through 2010. And in 2011, Auto Club Speedway returned to a single race season. Now, COVID impacted them not racing there last year. Now, the 31 previous winners at the track have produced, now the 31 previous races have produced 20 different pole winners, 18 different race winners. Kurt Busch, of course, in the 2311 racing team, he leads the NASCAR Cup Series in poles at Auto Club with 4. Joe Nemechek won the inaugural Cup race there and with a speed of 183 miles per hour, and 6 of the 20 active drivers are there. But Kurt Busch won all the poles, but it's his brother Kyle with the wins. Kurt, he does it with the pole. He has 4, but Kyle has 1 among active drivers. He's got 4 W's there. So with all that being said, your thoughts and impressions about, coming back to a track again. So not only that, I mean, you might as well just throw the notebook away. You can probably keep a little bit of it, but you're in the next gen car now, so all bets are off. But you're going back to a track you haven't gone to after a year break.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to see how the cars perform, not at a super speedway, although Auto Club is also a massive track as well. But, different style of racing than you see at Daytona. I'm curious to see kind of what the environment is like at Auto Club. As you said, outside of Los Angeles, will there be any carryover? Will there be any hype from the Clash being there several weeks ago? I'm very curious about this race. I think the second one is always where the season kind of settles into itself and we see, maybe how some storylines emerge there. As for who I think will probably end up winning the race, it's probably a cop out, but I'm going to say Kyle Larson because he's the best driver in this Cup Series until proven otherwise. And he runs really well at Auto Club and its sister track of Michigan. He won at Auto Club in 2017. You said it, Kyle Busch, 4 wins there, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him up at the front of the field as well. But I'm looking to see how Kyle Larson and really everyone competes this weekend at Auto Club. And I'm also curious to see if NASCAR gives any more insight. They announced that they were going to take Auto Club and basically make it a half-mile track, sort of similar to Martinsville, really shrink it down. Obviously, those plans were abandoned during COVID. So I'm curious to see if we see any sort of news coming out of that, and to see if that is still in the plans for NASCAR moving forward for Auto Club Speedway.
And then one other thing that they're looking at, again, they're going to return to practice, so you can practice, which is a good thing. I felt drivers, especially with the next gen car, you need as many laps as you can get into the car. But then, and if it's weird, they're saying this is new, but I don't think it's really new, the knockout style of qualifying. But they've had knockout qualifying. So I don't know. I guess they're labeling it new, but to me, they've had knockouts when it comes to qualifying.
Yeah, I think just going back to Not the way it was done in the past pre-COVID, those few years heading into the pandemic before that. But I think to your point, drivers are going to tell you that they are, and the teams in general are going to love the fact that they can practice and qualify, right? They get a feel for what the car is like out there on the track before the race. They can make adjustments. I think that's a big thing. Now, on the flip side of that, I will say, I think part of the reason we saw some of the parity and the variance we saw last year and all the different people up top and all the people winning is you didn't have that. You just rolled the car off the truck and you got out there and you raced. And I think that somewhat can even the playing field a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's invaluable information that you can learn about the car, about how it runs. So everyone, I think, associated with NASCAR on the team and driver side is going to say that they're thrilled that practice and qualifying are back.
Now, you mentioned you're predicting a Kyle Larson winner, if I'm not mistaken. I just want to make sure you had that for the record. But
correct.
Who's your dark horse?
So dark horse, we talked about Ford a little bit ago. I'm going to go Eric Almirola. Last two races held at Auto Club. Now, granted, as you said, totally different car. This is a whole new ball game here. But his last two races at Auto Club, Eric Almirola had 2 top 10s. Yeah, top 5 last week at Daytona. This is his last full-time season. He's announced his retirement. So there's that extra added motivation there for Almirola. If you're looking for a dark horse in Auto Club this weekend, I like the 10 at SHR.
It's good stuff. So let's give the deets on the race coming up. It's the Wise Power 400. It's at the Auto Club Speedway, Fontana, California, just south of Los Angeles. It'll be this Sunday, February 27th. The time of the race will be 3:30 with coverage on Fox beginning on 3 o'clock. Of course, that will be right here on WFXR. It's 400 miles. It's 200 laps. So stage 1 is 65 laps. Stage 2, 65 laps. The final stage is 70 laps. And the winner, the last race winner there was Alex Bowman. What do you think of Alex Bowman's chances, considering the fact he won the race in 2020?
Yeah, Bowman the Showman. I actually thought about taking him in this race because he did win the last one there. Bowman has run well. He ran well last year. At the end of the day, though, like I said, I had to go Kyle Larson just because he's the easy one to pick until someone else proves otherwise that they can win on a consistent basis. But I think Chase Elliott's run well there. Alex Bowman's run well there. I think the Hendrick cars will come to play this weekend.
I'm gonna throw a wild card at you. Can I do that?
Yeah.
How about Harrison Burton? He won the Xfinity race in 2020.
I like that. And you know what? Burton was having himself a pretty good start to the day. Now, granted, it was very early when he went out, but I thought he was driving the number 21 pretty amicably for the Wood Brothers down to Daytona. So, you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing him going out to California and running well, maybe even getting that 21 back in victory lane, which I think, if my memory serves correct, would be the Wood Brothers' 100th victory, the next one that they get.
Yeah, and I think they'll get it, especially with Harrison Burton on that behind the wheel, because he is awesome. So, speaking of awesome, you're awesome. Just throwing it out there.
Are you?
How was just since you were down at Daytona? What was it like that? Again, you've been there before, but this year, I mean, I'm sure everything is kind of getting back to the way things were before COVID.
Yeah, I've told this to a couple of people. I think I've been to 7 of the last 10 speed weeks in some form. There was a different buzz this time. Even on like Friday, being at the track and in the infield, it just felt different. It felt bigger. I don't know if that's because of the COVID year and people are just excited to be back together. I don't know. I would like to think it's NASCAR and their marketing and pushing these new drivers, the next gen car, and people having excitement coming off of the Clash, but it's tough to articulate. It felt bigger. It felt like a party. Marty Smith, I think, even tweeted something similar to the fact that the energy there was just different this year. And obviously I wasn't going to speed weeks back in the quote unquote heydays, when the sport was riding super, super high. But it felt big. It felt like a huge event. Again, even on Friday, 2 days before the main event, when you're talking about the trucks race and practice and whatnot, it felt big. It felt different. Which was great to see and exciting for NASCAR.
Well, I tell you what, Sammy, if the start of the season's any indication, I mean, I didn't think we could top the 2021 season, but we're getting off to a good start with 2022. So good stuff there, and you're good as well. Awesome what you do. You are the best. You are my man, 100 grand when it comes to NASCAR. And Sammy, I do appreciate your time on the WFXR Sports Fastlane on WFXRTV.com. And we will drop the checkered flag on this, and we'll go green with you next week.
Perfect. Appreciate you always, Jermaine, and we'll see you next week in the Fastlane.
There you go. And that does it for this edition of the WFXR Sports Fastlane on WFXRTV.com. Again, check out the newest episodes coming at you each and every week on WFXRTV.com. Until then, I'm Jermaine Ferrell. Hope all of your teams are winners. Have a wonderful and blessed day, everyone, and go racing!